Make no mistake, he must be stopped.
Hello friends, my name is Stevie Cade and welcome back to Film Trigger. And I just want to say happy Valentine's Day. And what seems to be, and hopefully will continue as a tradition of Film Trigger, is every Valentine's Day, we're going to drop some vampire love on you. That's right, some Dracula movies, because last year I did my first review of Dracula, the 1931 Bela Lugosi film, because it was the 90th anniversary of when it came out. And it came out on Valentine's Day, at least in America, it did. Not so much in the other countries. So we're going to continue this tradition, and we're going to talk about the big one. The 1992 vampire movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nope, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that one. So please sit back, relax as we do a review for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula is a movie that Francis Ford Coppola decided to do in the early 90s, and he wanted to do his own take of it, dive deeper into the actual book mythology of Dracula, more so than any movie had done previously before. So how does this movie hold up of adapting that book into a film? I'd say pretty damn well. So with that being said, let's dive into what I do like about this film. And right out of the gate, we're going to start off with the costume designs. I thought the costume designs were very spectacular through and through this entire movie. That goes for all variations of Dracula that we get, because we get quite a few in this film. God, they're just so beautiful to look at, like especially that armor that Dracula's wearing at the beginning of the movie. Almost looks like you took flesh off a body and you're just left with the muscle. Dude, imagine how scary that would be in like actual battle. And the costume designer of this film, and I don't want to butcher her name, so I'm not even going to attempt to say it, but she is also a costume designer for such movies as The Cell. It makes sense for this character, and it just looks really good, especially the reds with the deep grays that this movie's tone typically has. Framing and cinematography. Almost every shot of this movie is like, could be like framed and like put on a wall. It just looks awesome. Like no matter how big of a scale or small of the scale the scene is, every shot is just a work of art. It just looks very masterfully done. The costume designs, the framing, the cinematography, it all adds into how haunting this movie comes across, especially when it comes to Dracula and the supernatural presence that he gives off. The movie was filmed and edited with these like very subtle nuances that constantly remind you that you are in a supernatural element. You are dealing with a supernatural being. This is the world that you are in right now. And the way that these are done are just, again, very subtle, very particular, and even more importantly, all practical effects. Every last bit of it. If this movie was made now, I guarantee 90, if not 100% of this stuff would be CGI. But no, the practical effects and how they set this up and how they did these effects were amazing. Specifically, talking about Dracula's shadow. If you know anything about this movie, you know that every time you see Dracula and you see his shadow in the same frame, his shadow is always doing something different. And sometimes it's big differences. Sometimes he's interacting with other objects in the room when Dracula is not interacting with these objects. Or it's very subtle, like Dracula will make a move and his shadow will move like a second to a second and a half later in that direction, like it's keeping up with him. Kind of like Peter Pan. Oh. Oh, perfect timing, phone. That's my messenger notification, and my phone just perfect timing. That was funny. I should probably turn that down. Anyway, back onto the subject. The practical effects done in this movie are just absolutely spectacular and just well freaking done. Every time that shadow's doing something different, it's not post-production. It's an actual person doing the shadow acting. An actual human doing the shadow separately from the actor doing the shadow.
You found Mina. I thought she was lost. We're to be married as soon as I return. Are you married, Count?
This is incredible. 100% would be CGI today. But also to add to the creepiness and the hauntingness, you hear these voices constantly when Dracula is around. They seem to kind of reverb around the room or distant screams, but always when Dracula is on screen, you can guarantee there is going to be a very haunting, if not multiple haunting elements. And I just love that concept in this film. With this being an adaptation of the book, I actually never read the book because, reading's hard. And I just really enjoy movies. I really do. So a lot of my comparison will be from the Bela Lugosi movie to this one, especially because that's the last review I did for last Valentine's Day. But compared to the Bela Lugosi film, there is so much more rich stories being told and diving deeper into these characters than there ever probably could have been in the Bela Lugosi version. We really dive deep into Count Dracula's development and pretty much his entourage, everyone that's in his orbit in this movie. We dive deeper into characters that I lightly knew about in the Bela Lugosi film, like Dracula's wives. Okay, I understand he bites the lady and now she's one of his women or whatever. Even that alone is a much richer story being told here. You actually learn just like the seductiveness of what they are, how they exist in this world, and how they help keep Jonathan barely alive in this trance state while Dracula's out and about trying to steal his girl. Which brings me to the love story that's being told in this movie. That's right, Dracula has a heart, and he's been stewing over it for hundreds of years. But I really do enjoy the love story being told between Dracula and Mina.
I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
It's a very intense love story, especially how it pans out from the beginning, how he loses her, and how this is her reincarnated. And for a lot of the movie, you're wondering, is this dude crazy? She just kind of looks like the same chick and now he's being weird about it? No, actually, she is the reincarnation of the woman he loved. And he loves her so much that once he actually does have her and he does bring her in, he's hesitant. He doesn't want her to see this side of him. He doesn't want her to see the monster he's become, and he almost doesn't want to bring her into this world because he loves her so much. It's a selfless love, it really is. But I feel that this storyline was hashed out very well. I fully understand the sick and twisted, demented relationship that's going on here, and I kind of respect it. But you can have the greatest storylines in the world, and they're not going to mean anything without the right actors for the roles. And this movie, for the most part, has pretty much the right actors in the roles. Gary Oldman's performance is not to be sneezed at. This is one of his best performances, hands down. The way he reincarnates Bela Lugosi using that Hungarian accent, continuing that mythology in this movie. It's a great tip of the hat to the Lugosi film. He also makes it his own. It's not a copy and paste of Bela Lugosi's accent. It's his own accent. It's got its own little twist to it. At times, I will say this, at times it's kind of hard to understand exactly what he's saying because he's being overly dramatic, but that's just part of the character. I would just imagine Dracula is just really annoying to listen to sometimes. I don't know if I'm selling my point, but I really enjoyed what he did with this character for sure. He's backed by an amazing supporting cast, which brings me to Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing. If you remember my review of Dracula last Valentine's Day, I had very specific expectations for Van Helsing, and that is simply keep him as a scientist who wants to kill Dracula's, Nosferatus, and what have you. There's other variations of Van Helsing out there that are just he's just like a ninja or something, or he knows how to do taekwondo, or he's more of a fighter than he is a scientist. The fact that he's a scientist is like a small bridge of his character. No, this one sticks to the roots, keeps Van Helsing in that scientist realm. Anthony Hopkins, I think, does a great job portraying this character. Anthony Hopkins had just came off his stellar performance as playing Hannibal Lecter in the movie Silence of the Lambs, and he continues that creepiness in this movie while also adding some Anthony Hopkins quirkiness. I like those little additions to the character that aren't necessary, but just add to making it his own. But Anthony Hopkins being in this movie is something that I'm on the fence about. And specifically of him playing multiple characters, because at the beginning of this movie, he plays, I think, like the priest type of character. The reason why I'm on the fence with this is because that this movie is time sensitive. With the characters in this movie, they also play characters, the same characters, or a variation of that character in the future. So it's a little confusing that they would have Anthony Hopkins play the priest and then play Van Helsing, but only as like they're not connected at all. I spent a lot of this movie wondering what the connection was between the priest and Van Helsing, but there is none besides Anthony Hopkins playing him, which is confusing in a movie that has past characters to play the future variations of themselves. Get it? Does that make sense? Am I making sense to y'all? Or am I just jabbering on like a madman? Or maybe both, who knows? Renfield, played by Tom Waits. I think he did a really decent job bringing Renfield to life. He's borderline maybe overacting.
Your salvation, yes. I need lives.
But that can also be justified with the fact that Renfield is kind of written that way. So like he gets a pass there. Why it's on the fence is because of Renfield's development. Now, in the previous movie, as I said, haven't read the book, so I don't know if this is in the book or not, but in the previous movie with Bela Lugosi that I had reviewed, Renfield's character was the one who was helping Dracula with his estate when he was moving to London, and then Dracula took him and kind of turned him into a half-human hybrid vampire thing, and he ended up going mad and being put in prison. So like I understand that character from beginning to end. In this movie, Renfield's just in the prison, he's already mad, and I feel like the movie is just expecting me to know who Renfield is and why he is, and we're just going to go with that. I kind of wish they would have backpedaled a little bit. Tell me Renfield's story of why he's there, because in this movie, I'm not quite sure what led him to be in the spot that he's in. Opening scene to this movie, which is actually not part of the novel, which is fine. Dracula goes to battle. He loses the love of his life due to a miscommunication, so she commits suicide because she thought he was dead, kind of like a Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. And then he gets so angry, he becomes evil. That's the part I'm on the fence about. I wish him turning evil had a little bit more lore behind it, a little more mythology, not just he gets so angry and heartbroken that he just becomes pure evil. Give me a little bit more, something with a little more solid ground. And honestly, they could have just done a little nod playing to the Dracula name, Dracula. If you don't know, Dracul in translation means dragon, and Dracula is son of Dracul, even though Dracula has nothing to do with fucking dragons. They could have played into that to make this more mythological in some sort of way and make the name make sense, since Dracula has nothing to do with dragons. Maybe they could have tied that in, maybe. Moving right along with what I do not like about this movie. Okay, so when it comes to this movie, there are a lot of things to like. I think the story is almost flawless. I don't have very many issues with this movie at all, except a couple really big ones. But it's not even story-driven issues at all. It's more cosmetic, if you will. The first one is going to be Dracula's butt-cut hairdo. Who thought putting an ass on top of Dracula's head was the way to go? I get it. Bela Lugosi paved the way for Dracula to have a very specific look, the widow's peak, and you want to go against that. You want to do something creative. I'm all about that. I'm all about shaking things up, changing them, making them new, renovating them for your movie. Do whatever you need to do. Just make it look good. The butt cut doesn't look good. It's actually so bad that even in the serious parts, if you don't ignore it, it can get distracting. You almost don't want to take Dracula too seriously. And this is a very serious movie. And I just think that was a major misstep. That haircut, that hairdo, it was made fun of all in the 90s, and I can see why. It's very make funnable. Well, funnably, you can make fun of it easy. It was a major misstep, much like the other thing I don't like about this movie, and that was casting of Keanu Reeves. Steve, it's Keanu Reeves. Yeah, I know, it's America's fucking favorite boy toy or whatever. Listen, Keanu Reeves is known as, I think I've heard somebody say this, he's the best worst actor there is. And definitely not cut out for a role like this, especially with that god-awful accent. Literally, he sounds like a California surfer meets early 1800s London lad. Like, it's bad.
I think strange things which I dare not confess to my own soul, Count. The way he looked at Mina's picture fills me with dread, as if I have a part to play in a story that is not known to me.
It's even more discouraging to know that Johnny Depp was originally eyed for this role. Number one, through the suggestion of Winona Ryder, his girlfriend at the time, and also his co-star in Edward Scissorhands, which did phenomenal. Their chemistry was great, but also Francis Ford Coppola really wanted Johnny Depp in this movie. But the studio jumped in and said, we're not so sure about Johnny Depp's acting chops. Why don't we get Keanu Reeves? He's a proven actor. For crying out loud, look at his resume. It's got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on here. And also, Point Break. That is the acting versatile that we need for this movie. He's the correct guy. Hire him, Francis. You would imagine, like, a quarter into this movie that they would have seen what was happening and been like, Maybe we should go the Back to the Future route and just like recast him now, please. It sucks. It sucks because it's the dead goose hanging over this movie along with Dracula's butt cut. Sorry, Keanu, but you just got to accept it. Movie's not so bad once you drown both of those things out. They're there. You can't ignore them, but you can drown both of these things out if you immerse yourself in the story well enough. Overall, this is a wonderful adaptation of this story. Francis Ford Coppola hashed out these characters so well. I feel like I know these characters a lot more. I would actually enjoy to go back and watch the Bela Lugosi version, knowing what I know about these characters now, viewing that movie, because it would probably make me like that movie even more as well. He made a dark, vulgar, violent movie that also took all of Dracula's supernatural powers and turned them into their own character. And that couldn't have been done without the excellent special effects team and really just a good vision of what you want to do with this film. Yes, there's a few hiccups here and there. As I said, the butt cut and Keanu Reeves' terrible accent in this movie, but it really doesn't bog down the movie for me. I still enjoy it and I chuckle at those other things. So for all these reasons, I'm giving this movie an A-.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
There you go, lovebirds. There's your Film Triggers 2022 Valentine's Day special movie review. Let me know what you thought of this movie in the comments below. Be sure to check out some more of my videos, and as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
He is both young and old. He can appear as mist, as vapor, as the fog, and he can vanish at will.